Well, it makes yourself comfortable then. Initially, stiffen up a little bit. Just rub your hands together. And tapping over your face. Over your head and your neck. Down to one shoulder. The other side. Part of your chest. Belly. And then your legs. So, sit back. Feel your weight dropping back into the chair. Let's make sure that your posture is one that allows for a certain amount of what we might think of as letting go. So, try not to hold yourself stiff in the chair. Feel the support of the chair. And as a result, feel that releasing of tightness and stiffness in your body. And coming from that, things like your breathing, a certain amount of smoothness in your breath developing. So your awareness of your posture and your familiarity with your posture just takes you towards a point where movement, like your breathing, for instance, develops this nice fluid quality. This has a very calming, soothing effect on us, on our minds, on our bodies, on the nervous system, and so on and so forth. So just doing something like this, it's been shown with various studies that have been done that it does have an effect on the body. It has an effect on what they call the autonomic nervous system, which is that part of the nervous system that reacts to fight or flight, and to threat, and the adrenaline system, and so on and so forth. Of course, all things that at the moment, with everything that's going on around us, stressful times, those are exactly the areas that can easily get overstimulated, shall we say? And that's a very well-known source of poor mental health and poor physical health, and so on and so forth. So just taking the time to focus your attention, to let go of those thoughts that may be sort of stimulating the fight or flight response. Again, a little bit of space in your body and your mind, and for this quality of movement, quality within the body to build. You bring your feet in. Go through the same process again. Now that you know what you're looking for from that first posture, see if you can find similar qualities in the upright posture. As we know, that's always a bit more difficult because there's this instinct to sort of stiffen up, but just again, adjust your posture, get a little bit of weight in your feet, so on and so forth, and your hips sinking into the chair. So that stronger feeling going up through the middle of your body. So that kind of slightly rigid quality that we may not even have realized we were carrying with us begins to ease a little bit, it begins to sort of dissolve away, allowing space for the movement as much as anything else. And then as you start to turn your head, see if you can find that same quality in the movements that you're making, as though your neck were being very gently massaged. And again, there's been studies out there showing that actually this massaging quality, when we have a massage or when we do something like Tai Chi, has a soothing effect on things like the nervous system. And similarly, the focusing of our attention, when studies have been done on things like mindfulness, meditation, and so on and so forth, have a very similar effect. So everything that we do in Tai Chi has a significance for those sort of responses in the body. And just beginning to appreciate that quieter quality that begins to build. Your thoughts will drift away in all sorts of directions, and just when you recognize that's happened, just gently draw them back. And of course, that's particularly important if it's something that we're worrying over or anxious over. But if you practice it with all your thoughts, whatever they actually are, then you become familiar with the method, with the tool, if you like, of finding that quiet, still feeling. And then the shoulders. So as always, we have this interrelationship of mind and body and movement, benefiting all three aspects of ourselves. It's hard to move smoothly if your posture isn't correct. It's hard to get correct posture if you're not focusing your attention. Going forwards. It's hard to feel at ease in your body if it's tight and uncomfortable. So part of the mind to feel that bringing your attention into your body is a sort of refuge in a way. And then hands down to your sides and winding around. And as I was saying to the group yesterday, in Eastern meditation traditions, the more we can, those techniques that are aimed at concentration, gathering of our thoughts, the focusing of our thoughts, are very much related to this build-up of a quiet, calm feeling. And then winding around. And back the other way. So the movements give us something to concentrate on, to gather our attention around. And this image that I've used in the past of being like a sheepdog herding a herd of sheep is perhaps a better image than simply concentrating. Now, going forwards and push back. So try and be really clear about where your weight is going. When you go forward, it's going to sense your shoulders dropping. So your back should feel longer, broader than the front of your body. That can be quite difficult. That can feel quite untidy. Feels as though you're kind of slouched over, but more often it's the other way around. More often we're kind of straining, bring ourselves up. Remember that strain, that stiffening will block movement. And ultimately, that means that poor posture leading to tightness in our shoulder is going to have a significant impact on the whole of our well-being, both physical and mental. Turn a little. And then in the other direction. Remember, encouraging your thoughts to gather around the movement. And then going around. So what begins to build is a kind of inner feeling of stillness, spaciousness, calmness. One that we find that we're able to come back to more regularly with the practice. Because just as there's an effect on the nervous system of calming and so on and so forth, so the pathways for our attention to come into our body also develop, become hardwired into our nervous system. And then in the other direction. Good. Then settle. Raise your heel and step forwards. A little push into the ground. I mean, we know from doing these exercises that really helps to establish a connection with the ground, and that helps our stability and so on and so forth. But it also means that there's that really sort of sharp focus of attention there. So it becomes a stimulus for developing that calmer feeling. And then on the other side. And bring your feet back down. Once again, hands out to your sides. And this time, in combination with the movement of your weight, easing forwards and push back. Trying to follow the movement on both sides, feeling the sensations in the shoulder joint, your ribs, your sides, as well as aware of the movement of your weight, tilting in your pelvis, where you're using your legs. And all of it very much in line with the pull of gravity, or accounting with the pull of gravity. In line is the wrong word. In harmony with the pull of gravity. So that sense of smoothness extends into our relationship with the environment around us, in particular the pull of gravity. And I want to try bringing the breathing into the movement, because again, your breath helps to reinforce that smoother, calmer quality. It might do, it doesn't necessarily work for everybody. But try from here, just take a deliberate breath in, and then let yourself breathe out as you go forwards. And then as you come back, try that again. Breathe in as you come back. Just try that 2 or 3 times. Don't feel you have to stick rigidly to it. But maybe every now and then, through the movements, just refer back to your breathing. Now change into fisherman castanet. And mostly what you will find is that the breathing pattern will follow the expansion and contraction of your body. But really, just making sure that your breath feels more comfortable with the movement. Even it doesn't have to follow a particular pattern. And then coming over. The pigeon spreads its wings. Don't put your arms back too far. So that opening. Usually, when our arms go too far, what can happen is your hands end up. I'll just turn around. There, my arm there in front of my shoulder. Yeah, that's quite soft. As soon as I do that, that tightens up. So from there to there, I lose all that smoothness and that quality of movement and everything else, really. You should be able to recognize that change in the feeling in your body. The other thing it's often an indication of is that you're simply doing the movement wrong. This is not your arms moving. If you look at what I'm doing, get a sense for how little my arms are moving. I'm not doing this. I'm moving back and I'm letting my chest open, and that's moving my arms for me. Remember, that's always the root of the movement, the pattern of the movement in Tai Chi. When you get that flow, that I've been talking about just naturally comes. But if it's just the arms moving, you're going to struggle to sustain that. And then pushing away. So once again, there's a link there between an awareness of how we do the movement, the flow of the movement, and ultimately just the effectiveness of the movement in helping our well-being. We tend to think of Tai Chi as exercise, which I mean, sometimes it clearly is. But actually, sometimes it feels as though the really significant elements of it aren't to do with exercise, but are to do with meditation. One more time. And then hands twisted. And then let's do the sequence. Let's do pigeon spreads its wings. Because moving from one move to another, keeping a focus on the sequence is another good way of gathering your thoughts in. Recognizing the subtle changes from one movement to another. Try and let the pace of the movement, the rhythm of the movement be dictated by the transfer of your weight from hips to feet and back. One more round. And then changing. Now, bringing your hands in and again change. One more time. And change to the wild goose. Another aspect that helps with this soothing quality, this calming quality, is visualization, the use of images in one way or another. And again, this is an important element in Tai Chi. And again, it's actually something which comes from the mind into the body. So, an image like the bird in flight, an image like moving through water, are both things that can help to engender this smoother quality, this calming quality in the movement. But again, we need to be able to sustain that if it's going for it to work. It's no good imagining the bird in flight and then wondering what you're going to have for lunch, and then thinking about what was on the news this morning and so on and so forth. You have to again encourage your thoughts back to whatever it is you're focusing on. Part in the clouds. Your hands come down. Dragon plucks the stars from the sky. And then changing. This time, as you push your hands out, turn gently in your hips, don't twist your back up. And smoothly, as you push out, you begin to turn in your hips. Just feel the body going around. Avoid abrupt movement. Remember what I was saying about that effect on nervous system and that quality of calmness. And just remind yourself, this is not a competition. You don't have to rush into things. Not a prize to win, unless it's your own deep well-being. Do one more round of this. Sweeping the sea and looking at the sky. And now grasping the time with it. One more. On the other side. And then changing. One more. Just fold your hands over your chest. Mirror my movement. So push out with your left hand. Draw the bow with your right hand, elbow out to the side or tuck behind. And then swing the extended arm around as far as you can go without sort of pulling the shoulder out of line. And then we swap over, so on the other side. And this time, turn your head and watch the hand as it goes away from you. And as it swings round. And as it comes back closer to you. The archer. Let's do one more on each side. Now let your hands come down. Ease forwards, turn to your left, pushing into bump with the right shoulder, swing your arms out and back to the center. Don't lift your arms. Turn your body to swing your arms. There's a significant difference there. Remember, elbows dropping down, that gives the arms that very curved feeling. And your fingers not held out tight, thumb soft, palms of your hands soft. All of which are sort of qualities that we would expect our hands to feel in water. So again, the image, if you can develop the image in your mind, maintain that quality in your mind, that will help with all of this. And this time, raise the opposite heel by raising your knee a little bit. Don't strain or tilt in your upper body. And then, if it's appropriate for you, raise the heel and then the foot. When you put the foot down, make sure you plant it into the floor. Try and keep your hips steady. Don't think of this as coordinating different movements. This is one movement driven from the center of your body, which of course is the location, excuse me, the location, if you like to think of it like that, a possible location for that calm quality. One more time on each side. Okay, and then so something I can see is every now and then we're doing that, and then they're sort of having to shuffle around in their chair. If that's you, ask yourself why. What have you done? Because your hips, your pelvis shouldn't change position when we do that. It's not this, I hope. It's this. I go forwards, I turn. I haven't shuffled around in my chair. So when I come back, I shouldn't need to do that. I pushed up from the ground, not tried to pull myself up. If I move from my shoulders and I do this, that hip moved. I could feel it. So now when I come back, I've got to do this. But if I do the same thing from the feet, when I come back, I've got the position to come back to. So if you are finding every now and then you were shuffling around in your chair, it's because you were moving from up here. And that means that the focus of your attention was not down in your feet. It always comes down to that, doesn't it, in Tai Chi? It's always the same thing. Oh no, must bring my attention down. Get used to that. Don't resent it. Don't think, oh, this is difficult, or oh no, it's that again, or this is boring. But this is where I want to be. This is where I want my attention to come down to. This is where I find that stillness and that quietness. So welcome it. So rub your hands together. Tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder and your arm. The other side. The upper part of your chest. Belly. And your legs. Good. Stand. So in many ways, it's much easier to be aware of your feet and your legs when you're standing, because you're standing on them. So the standing exercise, or the seated exercise, is rather in some ways much more challenging and much more developmental. So feet parallel, below your hips, and get your feet straight, and then rocking your weight forwards and backwards. Remember that longer, broader feeling in the upper part of your body. I can still remember when one of my teachers adjusted my posture, and we were standing in this ball holding position, and he came up and he spent a bit of time adjusting my hips and so on and so forth. And when he went away, I was feeling like this. I was feeling like I was leaning forwards. So I thought, why has he left me leaning forwards? And so afterwards, I went up to him and I said, when you adjusted me, was I upright? He said, of course you are. I said, but I felt as though I was leaning forwards. He said, yes. That's because we get conditioned into believing that this is upright, but it isn't. So when we go from this to this, which is upright, it feels like we're going from this to this. So we have to adjust our thinking and our experience of feeling in the body. Imagine this line here, the line of the sternum, the breastbone, kind of folding inwards slightly. And if you're feeling slightly hunched back, you're not. Trust me on this. Now just let your weight come to settle, sinking down and push it up. That posture is another thing that will allow a freedom of movement, a smoothness of movement in and around the internal organs, nervous system. If you're doing the opposite, if you're tight in the front of your body, you're having to force the movement and it'll be anything but smooth. And then changing and change. And let your hips sink down. Hold your hands over your chest. And again, the archer standing this time. I'm going to move back a bit so the hand doesn't disappear. Remember turning and watching. Remember that when your hand pushes out to the side, see where it is? It's in front. It's not there. There. And this other hand is still in front as well. The elbow's gone behind, but I haven't done this. Because you can see what's happened to my chest now. Now take a slightly wider stance. You see my feet are turned out a little bit in this wider stance. And this time, when you push out with your left hand, just let your weight drop into your right. Come back to the middle. And then into the left. One more time. One foot forwards. Transferring your weight. raising toes and heel. When you lower them, that little bit of a push down into the floor. And then stepping in. On the other side. Remind yourself of that smoother, more fluid quality. Bring your attention back to your feet, what your legs are doing, to the center of your body. And notice how that kind of triggers that smoother quality. So when we start to feel that sense of what we might call agitation, or anxiety, or something like that, we know now that there's a way that we can neutralize that. And raising your toes and your heel. And then stepping in. And then step forwards, and depending on whether, or backwards, depending on whether you've got space in front of you or behind you. And then go in the other direction. Good. And then fisherman cast the net again. And pushing the wave. This time when you come forward, raise the back heel, bring the foot in, step back, bring the weight back, raise the front toes, bring the foot in. Lovely. Another foot forwards. Start with fisherman cast the net. pushing a wave. Again, step in, bumping into the wall. And then depending again on whether you have room in front of you or behind you, I'm going to go forwards. Either way, you bring the foot in, and then as you take the step forward or backwards, you bring your hands back to your hips. And when you run out of space, as I have, you go the other way. Okay, good. Relax. Go back to your chair. One thing about the standing exercise, I've mentioned a few times, this idea of your hands not going behind your shoulders. In some of the exercises they do, by the way. So in fisherman cast and net, and in this one where they curve, your hands do go slightly behind your shoulders, behind your hips. There may be one or two more. I can't think of any at the moment. So the way to work that out, so this wouldn't apply to fisherman cast and net, of course, but you could do, say, the archer here, like this, and I'm standing right up against the wall. It's not the most comfortable position. This movement from pushing away, from pushing in 4 directions, or here, if your hands are touching the wall, then it's wrong. Another one you could do, here, when it's more difficult to do, obviously, with the term, but the same thing would apply here. If you're bumping your elbows into the wall in this position, ouch, ouch, you're doing it wrong. Probably any number of other ones that we could do. So that's a way that you could actually just check that for yourself. And it feels a bit odd, particularly, as I say, you feel a bit kind of hunched over, but it does have a profound effect on our posture. So now, coming back to that refocusing of our attention and the quietness, the stillness, the calmness that comes out of that. Embrace tiger, return to mountain. And then let your hands rest. Lovely. So I hope that's helped you to develop that calmer quality. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for coming. Look after yourselves.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.